lots of good things to be thinking about as the day went on, and the afternoon is going to be no exception, more things to think about. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Dan Lohrmann. Dan is an internationally recognized cybersecurity leader, technologist, and author. During his distinguished career, Dan has served global organizations in the public and private sectors in a variety of executive leadership capacities, receiving numerous national awards. For over 12 years, Mr. Lohrmann led Michigan's government cybersecurity and technology infrastructure teams in a variety of roles, including enterprise-wide Chief Security Officer, CSO, Chief Technology Officer, CTO, and Chief Information Security Officer, affectionately known as a CISO. So Mr. Lohrmann currently serves as a Chief Strategist and Chief Security Officer for Security Mentor Incorporated. Dan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for, I'm going to kind of break tradition and not stand behind the podium, so I hope you're all okay with that. I want to start off by just thanking General Dunbar for the invitation and David Kajigal and your team. I just want to say, you've heard this a lot this morning, but they really are leaders. General Dunbar, really respected in Washington, respected around the country. Can't tell you how many times in Michigan I would be on calls and hear his voice and his leadership, just really in a number of different initiatives. So you really are led well. And same thing, David came over to Michigan with your team a year ago and working with Michigan and a lot of things, MSISAC, like Will Pelgrin was talking about. Just a lot of great work and great leadership. Come a long way in a short period of time as CIO in Wisconsin. So before I get going, I just want to, first of all, I'll give you a little bit about my background, and then we'll dive right in, move pretty quick through some slides. And this is going to be a little different session than the one we had this morning, and I'll describe why that is in a minute. But my background was at the National Security Agency. I started in Washington. I was in England with Lockheed Martin and Mantech for 7 years, and then I joined Michigan government in '97. So wide variety of roles, as was just mentioned, in Michigan. Been the CISO and the all these acronyms, right? Chief Information Security Officer, Chief Security Officer, and Chief Technology Officer. So we're talking really today about things that I've learned in that journey over the last 30 years of my career. I am from Michigan, so I need to start this way. I know you all are probably Wisconsin fans, and you're probably wondering, you know, am I a Spartan or am I a I am not from Michigan U of M, but definitely a Spartan fan. I really was rooting for you guys last Saturday against Northwestern. I was hoping that we could say maybe we'll meet this year in the championship game and we could kind of have another great wrap up to the season. I know there's been a lot of great years where Michigan State and Wisconsin have played in football, but leave that aside. What are we going to talk about this morning? I want to really talk more about the people side of this. And I want to ask a few questions before we get going, but I want to start off by saying, how many of you are either consider your role to be security or technology professionals? Raise your hand. Either security or technology, the vast majority of you. That's great. How many of you consider yourself more a business side or a business executive, not so much a security person? Less, a few more. Okay, so what I really want to talk about today, I want to start off for the first 5 minutes very quickly, just give you some highlights of some of the things going on in Michigan government around cybersecurity right now, but that's really not the focus of my talk. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on our program, some of the things that I was asked to just mention that may be of interest to people in Wisconsin, whether in the public or private sector, then really dive into talking about your career, talking about your organization, what makes for successful security organizations. And I'm going to give you some, hopefully surprising, I think some surprising stories. I'm going to tell you 7 brief stories from my career that I think may surprise you, but hopefully will help you be more effective in how you administer and how you run your security program, wherever your role is, whatever your role is in technology, and then really wrap up with some solutions. Hopefully we can do all that in about 40 minutes, and then maybe have 5 minutes for Q&A at the end. So, to start off, the Michigan Cyber Initiative. 3 years ago, we launched a new initiative in Michigan that you can see. You can see the website there at the bottom, michigan.gov/cybersecurity. I encourage you to go there and you can download a copy of our strategy. This will be updated, by the way, at a Michigan Cyber Summit in November, which is coming up in 2 months. So we're going to be updating our strategy, led by Governor Snyder. In case some of you are wondering, I'm talking as if I'm a government employee. I actually was the CSO in Michigan until August 1st. So my first invitation came. It was actually, I was CSO in Michigan. I joined the private sector 2 months ago. But in that, we really lay out a number of key items. We talk about our Cyber Summit series, which we've done 3 of those. Kickoff a couple years ago, I actually had Secretary Napolitano from the White House staff. We had Howard Schmidt. We had senior leaders from around the world. Last year we had Israel there. You're going to hear Rami Efrati here a little bit. You get to see him. He was at our Cyber Summit last year. Really toolkits for different organizations. What do you do if you're home, school, business? A cyber awareness training program. Some of you say, well, of course, everyone has that, right? Well, we had one in Michigan. Quite frankly, it stunk. It was horrible. We threw it away. We started over from scratch. And we said, you know, our previous approach was kind of death by PowerPoint. It was really putting people to sleep. We wanted something that was interactive, engaging, using gamification, and really relevant content that was actually fun, that people learned something, and actually, you know, the 50,000 state employees in Michigan could benefit from. We also rolled out the Michigan Cyber Range, and I know many of you have heard about the Michigan Cyber Range. I'm not going to dive into that today. That's another presentation. But what we saw in Michigan was that, you know, we didn't really have a research, development, test, and evaluation facility. So when I was at NSA and I'm in the Defense Department in England, everybody wanted to work on RDT&E. That was the sexy place to be. You wanted to be involved in testing out new boxes. You wanted to try new things. And it came to state government in the mid-90s. We didn't have any of that. All we had was this operational network. And so if you wanted to try a new security device, a new black box, a new technology, a new procedure, what did you do? You threw it on the operational network and hope it worked, right? So this was a big challenge. We didn't really know how to deal with that. So the Michigan Cyber Range is an organization. You go to merit.edu/cyber range. You can read about this. But it's public-private, working with the universities in Michigan, working actually with some in Wisconsin as well, but also looking at how do we work as teams to attack and defend? How do we do cyber exercises to really work together? And really, it's been a huge success. People use it all over the country. You can get certifications there. You can get training, similar to SANS training, that kind of a thing. But I encourage you to look at the Michigan Cyber Range. So these are all part of our strategy, which we rolled out, which is being updated. Another big thing mentioned earlier by General Dunbar is the National Governors Association efforts. And Governor Rick Snyder in Michigan has been co-chair of that effort with Governor O'Malley of Maryland. And that effort really has launched several different calls to action. Say, how can the governors work together in the 50 states to really move this ball down the field, if you will? One of the areas was a cyber scorecard, and it's available right now at the NGA website. Michigan every month puts out a cyber scorecard. There's a public version and a private version of this, but you can see Governor Snyder, you know, what are our key projects? What is the budget situation? What's working? What's not? This is the public version of that scorecard. But every month we get a new version that comes out, and that's been really helpful for people to understand where are we at with cyber and where are we going with cyber. And then lastly, I just want to mention one other document that we published that I think is a national leader. It's been called out as a best practice by Department of Homeland Security. And you've heard a bit about this morning, different sectors. And this is a cyber disruption response strategy. So we keep hearing about data. Cybersecurity is all about the data, you know, identity theft and losing data. It's actually also about a lot of other things. And I think Marcus Sachs and others are going to be talking about some of this. But the different Will mentioned, you know, what if, we also heard other people talk about, what if the grid went down? What if water supply was cut off? What if we had critical industries that were not available? And how are we going to work between government and the utilities, like Consumers Energy in Michigan and DTE? How are you going to communicate? What's your communication strategy? What's your training strategy? How do you figure out how you're going to work together? That's really what this document did, is really kind of lay out that strategy, and certainly something you may want to take a look at in Wisconsin as well. Okay, put all that aside for a minute. That's kind of almost like a precursor to really what I want to talk about this afternoon. and that is really get personal, kind of roll up your sleeves, and talk about really what makes for successful security, professional security teams, and success in working with enterprises. We hear a lot about people, process, and technology, right? Everyone's heard that, people, process, technology. I was at an event down at another Big Ten university, Ohio State University, a few weeks ago, and there were CIOs from all over the Midwest and CISOs from all over the Midwest, and they asked them, if you had to rate people, process, and technology, and what would you rate as most important to success? And they asked the question, and the results came back. How much do you think was people? How many think it was 50% people? A few hands. How many think it was, okay, I'll give you a couple choices. 50, 80, or 20% people. How many would say it's 20% people? A few hands. How many say 50% people? Nobody. I don't think 80% people. It is. All right, okay. That was the answer. I mean, the gist of this is really about the people issues. The people, the teams, the talent, the people working are really the number one issue that they voted in, out of that group of 150 CIOs and CISOs. The people issues are the most important about this. So what do I mean by that? Well, we're going to dive into that. So what got you in the room? And I'm not knocking into these things. We're at Marquette University. I certainly think all of these are important components, but I'm saying they're not really enough. So traditional views of successful security professionals, that you have a college degree, or maybe you have multiple degrees, you have a CISSP, you go get certified, you have CISMs or other certifications, you then go to security conferences, you do a wide variety of executive buy-in, and you say you've got to have executive buy-in and executive level support, and all of those things are very important. So I'm not questioning any of them. But my premise to you this afternoon is I've seen people with all of those things fail miserably in security. They come in, they've got the executive buy-in, they have all the credentials, and they fail. Boom. And I'm going to tell you some stories about how I almost failed in my career, even though I had all of these things. So let's dive in, get to some specifics. I want to tell you a quick story. I want to start off back in 2004. 2004, I was the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer in Michigan. My boss at the time was Terry Takai. Now, some of you know Terry. Some of you may not know Terry. So let me tell you, Terry Takai was our CIO in Michigan. She went on after Michigan to be CIO in California under Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then went from there to be CIO at the Department of Defense in Washington. So she likes to say she went from a $500 million IT budget to a $5 billion IT budget in California to a $35 billion IT budget in the U.S. Department of Defense. So little big, very successful woman, high respect, and she became a good friend. But at the time, not so much. Okay, so the issue at that time was wireless. Wireless. Say Wi-Fi. You all think today, of course, Wi-Fi. We have it in all the McDonald's, but that was the cutting edge issue at the time, Wi-Fi. And it was a big issue for security people. In fact, I would even think, if some of you aren't getting this, think about your views if you're a security pro of the cloud or mobile or BYOD. Everybody in the security industry was against Wi-Fi. Why? Why were they against Wi-Fi? All the headlines at the time, and there were tons of them, all the headlines said, war driving stories. Home Depot is hacked. Not the recent Home Depot hack. This was the Home Depot hack of 10 years ago. Why? People were sitting in the parking lot and accessing the cash registers via Wi-Fi. True story. Go back and look. Go back to all the war driving. How many of you remember those days? Anybody remember those days? War driving was the big thing. And you could go around and get access to almost anybody's Wi-Fi, and it was very insecure. So here I am. I'm the NSA security guy, right? New security team. Terry comes in from Ford Motor Company. She's got this great cyber technology team that has the support of the new governor, Governor Granholm at the time. They want to put Wi-Fi in all the conference rooms. Of course, I was against this. I was the guy that was going to say no. But I had done my homework. I looked at all the white papers. I had headlines. I had PowerPoint decks. I had all the headlines from all the big magazines saying Wi-Fi is a bad idea, don't do it. I did all my research, all the three-letter agencies in Washington, NSA, CIA, DIA, FBI, all of them said, no Wi-Fi, bad idea, don't do Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi. So we go into this meeting, we're in a staff meeting, and we get through the agenda. There's about 10 of us in the meeting. I'm one of the IT pros that are in there working for Terry. And Terry literally, we get to agenda 4, item 4 on the agenda. Terry says, Dan, so how are we going to put Wi-Fi securely in the conference rooms? And I said, well, Terry, I'm vetoing this project. We're not going to do Wi-Fi. This is not going to work. Silence. Silence. Terry then looks over and says, I'd like everyone to leave the room but Dan. Whoa. This is not good for your career, people. When your boss says everybody else in the meeting leave, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I was terrified. Terry was my new boss. I was about 6 months in at this point, right? I had just come through a successful power outage in the Northeast blackout at the Emergency Command Center. It was a great success. So I thought I was in really great stance. Everyone left, the door closed. They all kind of ran out of the room, and they were out of there quick. Literally, they look me in the eye, and they say, Dan, she says, Dan, if that's your view of this issue, you cannot be the CISO in Michigan. And let me tell you why. I've just been to Dow, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, and they all have Wi-Fi in their conference rooms. They're all doing it right now. So they know something you don't know. So I'm going to give you 1 week. Go out, figure out how we're going to do secure Wi-Fi, and come back and tell me how we're going to do this. So guess what I did? I'm still here today to tell the story, right? 10 years later. We did. We went out. I called those people up. I checked the private sector. State government is not known to be bleeding edge on many of these technologies, right? I mean, so we're usually not the first to do many things. Usually when the business side executives come back from conferences and say, they're doing something really cool down in Texas or in California, it's usually somebody else has done it before us, right? Usually. Not always, but usually. So anyway, I called Dow, Ford, Chrysler, GM. We did Wi-Fi. We got that project done. We actually, 2 years later, won the NASCIA Award for the best secure Wi-Fi in the nation. We turned it around. But that was more than that for me as a security professional. The message was, stop saying no. Stop saying no. And I would argue that today we have the exact same thing with security pros. Although it's not Wi-Fi today. None of you are going to argue. If you're a security pro, you're probably not going to argue, although some of you were just talking about the airports. Maybe we'll talk about airport Wi-Fi, and I agree with them on that. But McDonald's, other places, Wi-Fi. I mean, some of you could say there's still ways to secure it, but you probably have Wi-Fi at your house. We do. Other people. But now we've moved on to other issues. BYOD, cloud computing, maybe something else. Bring your own devices, BYOD, in case you're wondering what that stands for. Maybe mobile devices. You've got other issues. There's always something at the cutting edge of technology, and it's easy for security pros to just say no. So the answer is to this one is really stop saying no. You have to be known as an enabler. Management wants you to come in and say, how can we solve this problem? Not just tell me 5 reasons we can't do it. So we all kind of inherently know that, but for security pros, this was a paradigm shift for me. I knew after that with Terry Takai, and there were plenty of other stories like that with Terry. Not quite, well, I almost got fired, but where I knew she wanted me to come in with answers, not coming in with, just saying no. So I really, literally, if you're a security pro, stop saying no. I mean, I'm not being figurative here. I mean, come in and say, okay, your boss wants you to get something done. David wants you to get something done. How can you offer that on time, on budget, with the right level of security? You're probably not the first person in the world to deal with that issue. Now, in some cases, maybe Marcus's and Verizon in Australia, maybe there are some people who are really on the bleeding edge of some issue. But the majority of us are not. And we really need to come in and say, I'm going to enable. It's not going to do it. Next issue, number 2. Security professionals don't offer alternatives. So here's the next trap you come into. And that is this. Great, Dan, I get it. I agree. We have to enabling security. Security's got to enable the business. I get that part. So then you come in and say, okay, great. I'm going to come into this meeting. We got this $100,000 project. I've got the solution. It's going to cost $1.7 million. Oops. If you're the business side professional, how do you see that? Basically, you see it as a person saying no to you. Why? Because the whole project's only $100,000 and you're now going to be $1.7 million on top of that. I mean, that's not really all. That's kind of saying no again. So the key is, how can you be flexible? How can you offer multiple solutions? Gold, silver, bronze approach. Give you a story of this. And there's lots of different ways to do it. Think of it in your mind. I mean, again, some cases there might only be one way to do it, but usually we all think of this in our lives. There's multiple ways of doing something. Even flying on a plane, you got coach, business class, and first class. There's different levels. Maybe all will get you there safely, but there's different experiences. So give me one quick story. We built a secure Michigan plan. I'm talking now 12 years ago. Our first security plan. And we built this plan. It was a great plan. I helped write a lot of it. I thought it was good in 2002. It was and Governor Granholm came in, a Democrat, came in, and new administration. And we put it down on their desk. We briefed it to them. We thought we did a great job with that briefing. Turns out we wanted $35 million for that briefing. Now, some of you may say, come on, Dan, that's ridiculous, $35 million. But we actually believe we might get it because Y2K had gotten $23 million, and then they had gotten another $10 million appropriation when they needed more money. So it wasn't as if there wasn't money, But times had changed. 9/11 happened. Michigan was in a decade-long recession. And the answer was, we're not going to give you $35 million. In fact, we're not going to give you any money. So how are we going to do our plan? How are we going to implement this? Well, for us, one of the things we did, thankfully, Homeland Security started putting out grants. And we started chopping up our 35 recommendations into parts. And we started saying, have a list of the projects you wanted to do in priority order. We prioritized them, and we put price tags next to them. And we went in and we presented that to our Homeland Security Protection Board. And they, believe it or not, gave us $6 million to start this effort. We ended up doing a number of great things, like we had a new generator we purchased because we just had the power outage in the Northeast. Turns out we had a big ice storm in Michigan. Having that generator, we had a generator in one of our 3 data centers, but the other 2 didn't. By buying that generator, it actually helped keep the state up during a major power outage the next winter because of an ice storm. People said, wow, that was really a good purchase that we bought that generator. They gave us another $3 million. So what happened was we offered options, gold, silver, bronze. We offered a menu. I would say to you, if you're in state government, always have a list of things that you need. When boss comes up, end of the year, fallout money, whatever, I need to be ready to go. Here's my list of prioritized systems. Turns out, over about a decade, during a very, very hard economic times in the Michigan state government, we ended up getting about $21 million over 10 years, and we got about 80% of that project done. But day one, when we first presented that, is all or nothing. We need $35 million, we need it now, or this whole thing, basically that didn't work. And because we chopped it up, because we had priorities, we were successful. Number 3. Not enough humble pie. So what do I mean by this? Security pros are often the ones who come in and think that the world, and I was one of these, so I'm speaking about myself here. The world revolves around cybersecurity. And what I mean by that is this. You have your headlines, and we saw them from Will this morning. We saw the FBI presentations. We see these, and we do get scared. And we have the list, and it's like, do you want identity theft? Raise your hand if you want identity theft. And we go into the business, and we present it as if not only do we have a crisis that we need to solve now, it's like almost like that's the only thing actually worth doing in government, is having cybersecurity. And I think it can become a proud, confident, always right kind of approach. So for me, that really would be something that I would go around state government and I would present, we call FUD presentations. How many know what FUD is? Anybody heard that term before? It's got a bad name now, so you don't hear as much in the industry, but it was really got a bad name about 7 or 8 years ago. What FUD is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So you're just going in the room, the business is in their meeting, they're putting up the budget for the coming year, and you just keep throwing bad headlines at them and say, this is going to happen to you until they give you money. And actually, it was very successful for a long time. You went around and you just give FUD presentations, scare the heck out of people, and people give you money. And then finally, an executive pulled me aside and said, Dan, you got to change your presentations. FUD is fine. If you want to use it as an appetizer at the beginning of the meal, that's fine. A little bit of FUD, scaring people with headlines, but we have a business to run here. You got to, again, bring solutions, but also you need to have more humility and understand, what does the business really want to get done? Can you put this in business terms? We need a new SAP system installed. We need a new tax system. We need a new, do lunch with these people. Go out and talk to them. Find out what the business is really about. And then how can we do that securely? People tell me they don't have money. Business doesn't have money. We need more staff. We need more security funding. My argument in state government, in 17 years in state government, also at NSA, there's always stuff being funded. There's always boats leaving the dock. The question is, are you one of those boats? They're always spending money. The question is, are you even in those meetings? I tell you, a lot of security pros, and it was me for a long time, I wouldn't even be in the meetings for the top funded projects in state government. I wasn't even involved. My team didn't even know they were happening. Why? Don't invite the security guys, they're just going to ask for money. It wasn't like, how do we solve this from a business perspective? But it was much more of a, we really need to do security. So the other thing about humility is this, and I've fallen into this trap. I can't tell you how many security pros I've heard, and I hear this at conferences. If you'll just do this project, I guarantee you, fill in the blank. I guarantee you we'll have no more hacks 2 years from now. Really? Really? I guarantee no breaches. I've heard people guarantee no breaches. Scary stuff. The bad guys are getting better all the time. And maybe you successfully stop them today. But are you really going to be able to stop them tomorrow? I hope you do, and I hope you get the budget, and I hope you succeed. But be careful what you promise, because I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of people promise, if you'll just do this, then fill in the blank, right? And then a couple years later, it doesn't work out that way, that person's career ends. I've seen it. I've seen reputations be killed. Understanding the changes in the industry, in your situation, get different perspectives. Number four, you think the customer is clueless. Now you say, what the heck does he mean by this? I've seen this a lot with security staff. I had teams, and I had 30-some people working cyber. At the end, physical security was under me in Michigan as well, so I had another 180 people doing physical security. And we were growing our team in Michigan. But they would go off to meetings, and we would get invited to these business meetings I was talking about, sometimes for a $100 million new tax system, big project. And my security pros would come back, and I'd do a debrief. How'd the meeting go? Dan, they just don't get it. What do you mean they don't get it? They just don't understand security. They don't listen to me. They don't give me any time on the agenda. They just don't have a clue what security is about, and I've basically given up on those people. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yes. And this check out. So what's the answer? The answer is do lunch. Do lunch. I say security pros. How many times have you, now I'm not talking about with the other technical team or other security guys on your team. How many times have you done lunch with the business side of government? Not the technology people, the people on the other side of the organization that you're serving. Go and do lunch with them. I was like this. I used to go in meetings, and then thankfully a mentor, I'm not going to name the person, pulled me aside one day and said to me, this was after the Terry Takai meeting, Dan, you're still coming across as way too passionate and strong about security, but you're turning off the business people. You need to go do lunch and do it with Sue Doby. Like, Sue Doby? Sue, who's, again, now a friend of mine, so I don't mind using her name. Sue works for Oracle today, but she at the time was one of the IOs. And she seemed to always, very strong personality, always disagree with me at meetings. I'm like, that's like doing lunch with the enemy, right? I mean, Sue is always like, we don't need security, we don't need this, we don't need that. Yeah, go do lunch with Sue Doby. So I did. I went to lunch with her. And they said, and this person said, listen to her and tell her, she says, what criticisms would you give of the approach of my security team at these meetings? How would you improve? He says, and it was an amazing, the 1 hour lunch turned out to be 2.5 hours. And she gave me an action list, which I still use today, about how to go out and start by, most of this is like Covey, listen first, listen to the business needs, understand what they're trying to say, gain other examples from around the country that you can apply to their situation. So here's how Texas did it, here's how California did it, here's how Maryland did it. Look at NASCIO, National Association of State CIO examples of people that are doing these things. But don't just come right in and like try and dominate. The meeting is not about cybersecurity. The meeting is about a new Treasury tax system. The meeting is about a new fill in the blank. Some new database they need for DNR, Department of Natural Resources. State police needs to put together a new something. They're not here to talk about cybersecurity. You need to build trust. The goal of the cyber professional is to be the trusted advisor. Now, I would say whatever our role's in, whatever career you're in, that's your role. Are you the trusted advisor that your colleagues go to and say, I want to know what Dan thinks about this? I want to know how we can do this project on time, on budget, with the right level of security. I don't have $27 million. I might only have $270,000. If you really talk to me nicely, maybe I have $500,000 for you. But that's all I have in my budget. Are you having those conversations? That's the challenge. Can you be a trusted advisor? That's really what do lunch. Remember nothing else about what I say. Build trust, do lunch. Get to know the business side of things. Highly recommend that. Okay, insider threat, start with the technology staff. I want to read you something here real quick. 12:37, I'm going to move quickly here. Time's flying by. This was from an anonymous hacker. The front lines of the net, that's where most of us spend our time. Life gets crazy out there. A virtual wild, wild west. Almost anything goes in cyberspace. I liken our online world to another American gold rush, the new frontier. It's true that history seems to repeat itself. We boldly go where others are afraid or ill-equipped to go. We're the white knights, the few, the proud, the ones who are willing to stick our necks out and get our virtual hands dirty. Or if you prefer, we're living in 1930 Chicago all over again with mob rule. There's minimal policing going on, and people often take matters into their own hands. It seems like an impossible task, but when the going gets tough, you'll find out what you're made of. We do what we do to survive in this dog-eat-dog digital world. We didn't create this situation. I'm not happy about it. I was dealt this hand, but I'm making the most of it. It is what it is. Somebody needs to protect the homestead, right? Truth be told, things are actually getting worse out here. Cyber ethics? Hello. Most hackers I know think those two words are an oxymoron. Rules are for kids or other people we need to keep in a box. What? Policies? Are you kidding me? Those rules don't apply to us. Sure, pros understand that children need to be protected and child porn is wrong and yada, 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 but beyond that, I don't have time for lectures. But let me tell you something. We're dealing with experts, hardened criminals. We're fighting fire with fire, baby. Look, this is the big leagues, not some single-A farm team out in the bushes. We're not in some global game of Halo. We've got real work to do. The bad guys are getting dangerous and real dangerous. They don't understand our civil, respectful way of life. They just keep hitting us hard. Sure, it's tough. I'm tired. There are no timeouts. We get a little sleep when we can, but then we're right back on it. We have to be right every time. Cyberspace never sleeps. This is war, baby, cyber war. All's fair in love and war. Why'd I read you that? That's the view of a lot of hackers. I'm sad to say it. The challenge is this. It's a slippery slope around cyber ethics. And I've known people that I trusted, people who've had background checks, people who were very, very talented cyber experts who have actually gone over to the dark side and are actually in jail right now. I'm not going to tell you all the stories that I know in this, but I would just say, we're never above the law. Cyber vigilantism does not work. What's the solution? I'm going to move a little quickly here because I'm taking a little long, but seek accountability, find a mentor, practice virtual integrity. Some soul searching. Accountability is for winners. I think a lot of people in this industry still believe that accountability is for losers. I'm going to explain what I mean by that in the next couple slides. But really, you got to think of your career. If you're a cyber expert, are you practicing what you preach? I'll tell you, why is this so important to me? I've had people come to me who said, Dan, the reason why my system administration team, the reason why my group is not doing this, we're not doing X, we're not doing Y, I'll go do lunch with some of the business people. It says, your own people are doing the exact same things. Your team is a bunch of hypocrites. You're not leading by example. And let me tell you, it hit hard. And I had to go back and find out that my team is doing exactly those same things. It's like, we're going out and telling people to do all these different things, and then we're not actually doing it ourselves. I'm just going to tell you one quick story here. I had a manager, great manager, statewide manager, 15 level, very well respected, all the credentials in the world, master's degree, certifications up the gazoo, had all of it. And one day, I saw him hauled away by state police for child porn. He's in penitentiary right now. This guy was running child porn distribution things from within the state's network. It was not pretty. That was a very humbling moment for me. Very humbling moment for me. Now, he wasn't on my direct team. He was not on the cyber, thankfully. But he could have been. He was on one of my expanded teams that worked with security very closely. So all I'm trying to say to you is nobody is above the law. And we really need to do that. So if you look at this, I just want to show you some headlines. I really like these, from sports. But I think, accountability is for winners. And I just want to, what do I mean by that? Some quick headlines. I'm not going to read all of these to you. Coach Belichick, New England Patriots, holds us accountable every day. We appreciate when he's tough on us. He gets the best out of us, Tom Brady. Our good teams, coaches hold players accountable. On good teams, coaches hold players accountable. On great teams, players hold players accountable. Joe Dumars, Detroit Pistons. There's lots of examples. The best people in the best industries have coaches and are accountable. The best pianists have coaches that hold them accountable. The best quarterbacks, the best players in the NFL, the best players in whatever it is, they get to have coaches who hold them accountable. We need to think about that. And there's a lot of examples. We're going to do a whole other talk just on this. But the challenge becomes, how do you have accountability in your workplace, and how do you actually live out that example? Number 6, quickly, dealing with burnout. I've seen people, and I think, I've seen people that do great. I know individuals that have worked on teams that I've had that were amazing. And they would work nights and weekends, and they would work straight through some major attacks we had in Michigan. And within 6 months, they were either out of government, or they were out of the job, or they were just completely burned out. I saw it ruin marriages. I've seen it do other types of things. And there's a lot of things we can say about this, but a couple quick points. One, we're talking about your career is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You really need to think about there's going to be times when you need a break. And you need to have a strategy and adjust when you need to. So, I'll just say an example here is people who constantly are just really working, unbelievable number of hours, and that they're continually at the office. The best thing I told them to do in many cases is just go home. You need to have that work-life balance. And I've seen people actually crash and burn in this industry, in our teams, because they didn't have that. I could say more about that, but I want to go on to the last one. And that is this. You heard this earlier, too much inside-the-box thinking. I want to talk a minute about this. So what this is that you have a job, and you're really good at it, and it actually can become, for some people, a liability if that's the only way they're viewed in the organization. It limits your personal and organizational effectiveness and ultimately undermines your security. So what do I recommend about how do you actually think outside the box? We all hear that. No one's going to argue if I said, how many of you think we should be thinking outside the box? I want to give you a couple examples here. So first of all, respect the box. What do I mean by that? Every one of us has a position description. You need to be doing your core jobs. Some of you probably know people in your workplace that all they want to do is something else. They never want to do their basic job. They're always volunteering for committees. They're always going out. They always want to go on trips. They're the first one to do other things, but they don't do their core job well. You need to do your core-based job well. So I'm assuming you're at least getting an average or better on your core job, and your management thinks that. But after that, raise your hand and volunteer. Generate ideas. Are you the person in the office who's always coming to management with new ideas? When an idea fails, try again. Why? My brother said this well. He's a very successful salesman. He's worked for like 10 different IT companies, always salesman of the year for all these companies, and had millions of dollars, very wealthy. And he says, sales is about the right product at the right place at the right time with the right customer and the right salesman. You need all 5. You have a great idea, right product, right idea, wrong time. Right product, right place, right time, wrong time. I wish you'd come to me last week. Why? That's a great car. It's a great price. I need that car. I bought a different car last week. Wrong time. So know that in management. Your management, you may have a great idea. Well, I told my boss that last year. All right. Maybe he needs to hear it now. Maybe he didn't need to hear it last year. So right place, right time. Keep coming back with new ideas. Be somebody who's thinking out of the box. Join external groups. This is really where I was going. You heard a lot about partnerships. And I just do my own, I've been very blessed. God's been good to me in my life. Let me just say this. By joining external groups like InfraGard, we heard about InfraGard from the FBI, by working with Department of Homeland Security, by working with different magazines and blogging and starting to write, and then going on and then authoring 2 books. Then I was invited to speak in South Africa and Europe and Moscow, and one thing led to another, and it's led to a lot of success. But I'll tell you, it all started by volunteering, building that external network, and working outside. Be the go-to person in your office. If you can do that, if you can share your knowledge, you will be much more successful in your career. So many people I know are great, but they're really in a stovepipe. They're not looking outside their current situation or their current position. Many of the people up here in the front row will tell you that as they build their external network, they're much more successful, and they actually build their career at the same time. So here's a quick recap. I can get this slide, leave this up here for a minute. But people see you as a disabler. What's the solution? Be known as an enabler. Stop saying no. Make things happen. Not enough alternative solutions. Offer gold, silver, bronze. That became kind of the motto of my group. Give me 3 options. Sometimes people say, I want 5 options. Add tin and platinum to it or something, or diamond if you want. But 3 may not be enough. But always come with solutions. Not enough humble pie. Genuine humility with professional excellence. Understand change is part of this business. What works today may not work tomorrow. The customer is clueless. Not. The customer is not clueless. He knows something you don't know. Figure out what it is. Improve your relationships, build trust. Are you an insider threat? My gut tells me there's some insider threats in this room, because any room this size have insider threats. And so it's something we have to think about. Are you burned out? Perseverance and work-life balance. And then lastly, perspective stuck in a box. Move beyond your position description, build teamwork skills, enlarge your network in the industry. Work with others, in other states. MSISAC is a great group. InfraGard, there's many, many other groups you can work with. Partner with others. By being here today, you can do that. And a final thought, and then I'm going to take a couple minutes of questions, but we're almost full time here. What got you in the room isn't enough to be successful. And many of you say, if I just get a CISSP, if I just get that degree, if I just get that master's. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not saying that at all. Those are great things. I'm all for education. I want all my kids to go through college and get degrees. I'm not against any of those things. But you need to look in the mirror and recognize that the biggest hurdle in your success in your career and your securities team, because I'll tell you, your security team is made up of individuals. At the end of the day, you got to work together as a team. But the more you do these things, the better your security team is going to be. The more effective you'll be in Wisconsin government, and the more you'll be able to work with the business side of things. Take a step back, be honest with yourself, and restart your security journey. I realize that some of these things are very counterintuitive. Security guys not saying no. these kinds of things. But these are some lessons that I've learned in my career that have helped me, by God's grace, to be where I'm at today.